during the RNC, there were a number of speeches given by individuals that spoke specifically about undocumented immigrants. And a lot of the stories had emotional appeal because of the fact that they touched on family members who had lost their lives as a result of undocumented immigrants who were drunk driving. Now, it turns out that all of those speakers are part of something known as the Remembrance Project, which is a nonprofit organization that doesn't have to pay the same taxes as everyone else. So as a result, they are not allowed to endorse any specific candidates. But what's interesting is you're seeing the instances of people who immigrated to the country legally attacking undocumented immigrants, and it is Trump's attempt to basically pit the Latino community against one another. And the question is it working? Now, the Remembrance Project organizes the family members of people killed by undocumented immigrants to push for tougher immigration laws. As I mentioned, it's a 501c3 nonprofit, which means it can't officially endorse political candidates or individual pieces of legislation. Now, it's interesting because they're going around endorsing Donald Trump, so it seems as though they're doing exactly what they're not supposed to do. Donald Trump is the only candidate to pledge his support for the Remembrance Project's national program, providing needed assistance to victims' families. Thank you, Mr. Trump. That was according to one of the speeches. And also, the three people affiliated with the Remembrance Project are Sabine Durden, Jamil Shah, and Ann Mendoza. And each had a primetime address on the NRA's opening night, reaching millions.
You said NRA, which might be fitting because they had a giant free ad during the convention as well, but obviously the RNC. And so, look, a lot of people play these games with 501c3s, and they say, okay, we're a nonprofit. And then FEC, because they're neutered, doesn't do anything about it when they clearly spend a tremendous amount of money in politics. You're not supposed to endorse candidates. I think when you step on the stage at a convention and endorse the candidate, I can't imagine a more thorough definition of endorsing someone.
A lot of ways to interpret it.
Yeah, could go either way.
Unless you're Ted Cruz.
That's right. Ted Cruz would have had an argument that he was not endorsing Donald Trump. They do not. So understand how this scam is played, and that's why it's our job to break down and analyze this for you. So everybody on their side wins. So money gets funneled to that movement from people who are against immigrants. Now, it doesn't mean that some of the people involved in that group don't have heartbreaking stories. Anytime someone in your family is killed, it's an absolute tragedy. But the groups that are political groups that want to stop immigration, their agenda is, how can we take that tragedy and use it for our political benefit?
That's right.
Yeah.
And so part of the way they do that is they fund these groups and they say, okay, you got a family member, a loved one you lost? Great. Go tell everybody about it so they can get super angry, etc. Now, look, you could still have projects like that of people who are super angry because they lost a family member and they find a way to fund it, and I understand that. But once you step into the political sphere and you go, this is my candidate, and Donald Trump goes, oh, I can't wait to use your tragedy.
Yeah.
Let's put that in prime time. And this is not an isolated incident.
Yeah.
Almost everything in the first 2 days of the RNC, and I'm being generous by leaving the third day out, was my son was shot in the head by an what they call illegal alien, to their story. Or my son was killed in Benghazi, and it's all the Democrats' fault. It's all Hillary Clinton's fault. So let's take that death and make sure we use it for the political gain of the Republican Party and Donald Trump. And it's both highly questionable legally, and for God's sake, can the FEC, the IRS, someone look into it, actually do your job?
Yes.
And secondly, morally, it's gross. And if you care about those people and you care about what happened, you should wonder, wait, why are they doing this and taking something that was earnest and heartfelt and turning it into something ugly and political?
So not only are they exploiting tragedy for political gain, there's also the component of trying to reach out to Latino voters who are here in the United States legally, who might not like Trump, but hey, look at all of these people who support me who are Latino. Like, I've noticed that trend, during the RNC as well. And there's also another little twist to this story that I think is worth mentioning. So the Remembrance Project is funded by an individual who is an environmentalist, and he's referred to as a radical environmentalist. And so, interestingly enough, there are a number of conservative organizations and a number of conservative politicians that refuse to work with this organization as a result of that. So I think it's a very interesting, like, twisted story that has lots of different working parts.
There are so many, if you study the history of America, there are so many ways where it's almost like a criminal disservice in how little we teach people about what our country actually was, how it actually functioned, how it was set up, how it's interacted with the world. But one thing, and especially that we don't ever learn coming up through elementary school, high school, and you have to read something like The People's History of the United States to read about, is how from the very beginning, before it was even an independent country, how groups have been pitted against each other to distract us, to get us to not band together, and to fight for what should be ours, economically or politically. I mean, when indentured servants being pitted against Native Americans, being pitted against slaves, freed slaves being pitted against people who are still in slavery. And then, of course, you have the economic struggles in the inner cities. You have the Irish being pitted against other groups. All of that up until the present. And now, even people who have immigrated in being pitted against the people who are just trying to have the same benefit to their life that they did, who are trying to improve the status of their family. It's so sad that it's been so effective for hundreds of years.
Yeah, and still today, not so much groups against, well, some groups against each other, just in black versus white. I mean, blue-collar, working-class white Americans being told to fear the other, to fear black people, to fear other immigrants.
Fear
coming
refugees.
taking your job. They've for years voted against their economic interest, and right now the response of the Democratic Party to 30 plus years, 40, 50 plus years of getting white working class blue collar workers to vote against their interests is to also not stand up for those people. I mean, at least for the first part of that, that was what the Democratic Party does, and now it's just merely less offensive in many cases than the Republicans, but they stopped taking that stand and stopped giving them a choice, which makes to me that drift easier.